Hello, and welcome to this fifth and final clip about ancient Greece. Today we will be focusing again on the characteristic which is about classical shaping, architecture, sculpture, and the culture of the Greeks and Romans. And to start off with a little repetition of what we already have seen in the last couple of lessons, in the last couple of movies. We've been talking about classical Greece, a period in which the Persian Wars take place and there's lots of economical growth. Golden Age of Athens, from which time we know all the philosophers and all the culture and stuff like that. But there is one sort of final era that we need to know when it comes to ancient Greece, and that is the part or the time that we call Hellenistic Greece, the time of Hellenism. And that's the period in which Greece is conquered by two kings, actually, from Macedonia, from the north of Greece, Philip of Macedonia and his son Alexander the Great, and specifically the latter is very well known, of course. His surname already says it's the Great, his sort of honorary title. And this is actually the time in which the Greek culture spreads far across Asia, and in the end, in 146 BC, Greece is annexed by the Romans as a sort of a province of the Roman Empire. So we will be focusing on that last little bit in the timeline, Hellenistic Greece, somewhere between 323 BC and 146 BC. Actually quite a long period in which Greek culture is flourishing and expanding all over parts of Asia. So first, a little bit of info. Macedonia is a kingdom, was sort of situated on the north of Greece, and of course after the Golden Age you see Greece, Athens being defeated by Sparta, other polis come up and take over power, and a very important man is Philip of Macedonia. He thought of himself as a Greek king. Others say Macedonia is a different city, nowadays actually a different country, but he dreamed of uniting and conquering all of the rich city-states of Greece, and he sort of put his plan into practice. He built an army that was stronger than even Sparta's army, and he captured one after the other city-state, and he sort of united them under his rule. And on the map you see that Sparta in the end sort of tried to stay clean of this empire of Philip, but in the end he sort of conquered all of Greece. And in 338 BC, Philip defeated Athens and Thebes as the last sort of important cities and gained control of all of Greece. So here you see that there's a sort of a new kingdom arising, a new empire building up, the Macedonian Empire. And Philip of Macedonia was, sort of the first man who managed to unite the Greek city-states and actually build Greece as sort of a unity. Well, he was assassinated 2 years afterwards, and then his son Alexander became the king. And Alexander, as I already mentioned, he is called the Great. There's good reason for that. He became very well known because of his vast empire he conquered and his huge sort of strategical insight and his knowledge of war. He then invaded the Persian Empire and he sort of demolished it. So after he smashed the Persians, he conquered Judea, Egypt, and Babylon, all within 11 years, which is sort of striking. And funnily enough, we'll see a map later on, but he was a pretty, you could say, he was sort of proud of himself. Others say he was a bit arrogant, but he founded lots of cities and named lots of those cities after himself. So throughout his empire, you had all these cities called Alexandria, Alexandropolis, and so on, and all these cities were built up in sort of a huge explosion of Greek culture. When he managed to conquer all these empires and countries, he crossed the Indus River into India, but then that also was sort of his demise. Some of his soldiers also allegedly said this is too far for us, crossing this huge river, the Indus River. He came down with a fever, and in 323 BC he died. So he only had a sort of a rule of 11, 12, 13 years, but he came very famous for this rule and the empire that he finally conquered. Here you see a map of the huge empire that Alexander the Great conquered. And since he was sort of ruler of this empire for such a short time, he didn't really have a chance to really build it up or consolidate it really well. But here you see again sort of the route he took, and this is all very well known because lots of it was taken down, written down, so we do know quite a bit about this period. You don't have to remember any of these battles, but you see all these areas, Parthia, Persia, Bactria, that he sort of invaded and conquered here. When he died, Alexander's empire was split into 3 kingdoms. Greece and Macedonia was one, Egypt and Persia. You see it in the map below. Specifically, Persia is pretty big, but as you probably have guessed, these 3 empires then sort of halfway collapsed onto itself, were conquered partly, and so on. What is important, however, because that's actually the main theme for today, that after these soldiers, so when they were conquering, they stayed behind, partly built up a new life. They were followed by traders, artisans, and so on. So the Greek culture from Greece sort of spread out through all of this empire, throughout Persia, even to the borders of India. And that is what we call Hellenistic. So this is an adjective for the Hellenistic culture that describes the mixture of Greek culture with local Asian cultures. And there's lots and lots of examples. You see a few pictures here that have been made in this era. But it's very important that you understand that the reason why we still have so many things left from the Greek is partly because of Alexander spreading the culture throughout Asia, where it remained and was preserved, and sort of got its new accents with a mixture of Asian culture. At the top you see the famous painting of one of the stories of the Trojan War, and below you see a very famous mural which depicts Alexander the Great actually battling one of his famous battles against a local king. So Hellenism, that's a very important term. Please remember that, because that is sort of the reason why Greek culture got spread so well. How does it then all end? In the end, the Greek gets conquered by the Romans. But one last thing, the most cities to be founded, famous city is Alexandria in Egypt. And that was an actual Greek city. So it was in Egypt, but it was completely built up in the Greek way. Theaters, a stadium, and it was well known far into the Middle Ages for its library. The Library of Alexandria was said to sort of contain all knowledge in the world. So scholars would go there, people who wanted to do scientific research, read old and sometimes even new documents. It was the center to go to. If you wanted to know anything, you would go to the Library of Alexandria. And the other thing it was famous for was the lighthouse. So this was one of the 7 world wonders, and it was destroyed only in the 14th century. So you see that this is one of the things that Alexander held dear, to push culture and so on. And this Alexandria is a very famous example. That was it. Of course, in the end, worth mentioning, Greece is conquered by the Romans, and that's our sort of next topic for the upcoming lessons, the Roman Empire. Thank you and good luck.